As I said before, I'm going to do my best to summarize the work of Catherine Coffey. Now, whereas Linda was writing about the 9th century, 9th and 10th century Abbasid harem, upper class, the wealthiest, largest, most expensive, most opulent of harems. Katie, on the other hand, was dealing with 20th century harems, 20th century middle-class harems in the Arab world. Her paper is entitled "The Growing Independence for the Mother Figure Amidst a World of Political Repression." And here I will do my best to summarize her findings. The modern middle-class harem produced a world of distinct roles and expectations for all that lived within, such as gender segregation and social isolation. Leila Abu Zaid and Fatima Mernissi experienced life in the middle-class harem in the 1950s in colonial Morocco. Throughout the pages of their memoirs, these women recreated the familial world within the harem and have guided our imaginations to the lives that their mothers lived. Anti-colonial activities and revolutionary ideals set the stage for many changes that impacted the roles of women within the family at the end of the colonial era. Leila Abu Zaid's mother held her family together by non-traditional means as a result of her father's imprisonment for nationalistic activities. Parallel stories, such as that of the Leila Ahmed family, have been noted throughout the Arab world. Leila Ahmed's memoir unfolds the circumstances that transformed her mother's life from a world of luxury to one dependent on inner strength and resourcefulness. Leila Ahmed actually grew up in Egypt, not in Morocco. The mother figure of the Arab family in the mid-1900s was called upon to take on new roles of leadership in daily life in order to hold her family together in the face of political oppression. Drastic changes to the roles and structure of the harem lifestyle evolved out of necessity for survival, rather than as a predetermined steps of any feminist movement. Mothers of the harem revealed that they possessed the skills, independence, and strength within themselves to ensure the family's welfare in times of need. The family has always been a fundamental component of daily life within Arab society. The term harem refers to a space and the people within it. And here it's very much as Linda described, a domestic space reserved primarily for women and for the men who are related to them, and exclusive of males who are outside of the family. The majority of middle-class harems consisted of extended families and monogamous couples that lived together to support one another and pool their resources. Middle-class felah, or landowning families, such as Fatima Mernissi's, lived a sophisticated life. They remained attached to the agricultural development of their land, but lived lives in a traditional harem style, often in the cities. In all avenues of Arab society, family life revolved around the sanctity of its women. Men and women shared the collective duty of guarding the family's well-being, which hinged significantly upon the reputation of the women of the family. The reputation of each woman was built upon competency, maternal care, managing the household, generosity, and bravery. Women held great responsibility running the household and raising the children. Any outside social interactions were monitored with diligence by all within the family to ensure they remained out of the public eye and avoided any untoward sexual advances. The men handled interactions outside the home to avoid this risk that could tarnish the reputation of their wives and the entire family. Modern middle-class harems continued to guard this reputation and sanctity by use of walls, gates, and rules rather than the constant presence of eunuchs, as was the case in the classical Abbasid harem. Mernissi described her home as being surrounded by high walls, ornate tile, and woodwork. Women had to obtain permission to go in or out of the gate of the Mernissi harem, permission, that is, from the senior males of the family. The Arab world and gender segregation have become intertwined over generations. Ethnographic works have described the Arab world as two distinct societies, the private world belonging to the women and the public world belonging to the men. These ethnographies maintain that the division of labor confined women to the domestic arena, limiting their responsibilities and human contacts. The responsibilities of mediator within the home, social circles, and extended family are what belonged to the mothers. Women have the capability of influencing the family decision-making and developing alliances with other women and families. Mothers have customarily united in times of need to provide sympathy, strength, and insight to one another. Mernissi and Abu Zaid's stories exemplified ways in which gender segregation took shape differently in every household throughout the Arab world. Layla Abu Zaid began her life as a member of a traditional middle-class harem in colonial Morocco. The stories she related in her memoir, Return to Childhood, the memoir of a modern Moroccan woman, focused on the life of her family in the 1950s, at the end of the French colonial rule. In Dreams of Trespass, Tales of a Harem Girlhood, Fatima Mernissi related her childhood in Fez during the 1940s and 1950s, which provides a contemporary account to compare with that of Abu Zaid. Both memoirs portrayed the prospective child and how they viewed the family's existence with the focus on the worlds of their mothers. The exploration of the memoirs of Abu Zaid and Mernissi allow the reader to develop insight and understanding into the world of the mother figure in the middle-class harem of 1950s Morocco. The Abu Zaid family resided in the administrative quarter of El Qasiba due to Mr. Abu Zaid's position as a French interpreter of Berber. He was a native Berber speaker, and he interpreted for the French. This government position enabled the family to own their own home, a sign of status and relative wealth. The Abu Zaid home consisted of 4 rooms situated around a central courtyard with grapevine-covered walls and an ornate water fountain. The other upper-class residents of El Qasiba employed prison inmates for chores such as watching the children play in the neighborhood. Layla's mother wore the traditional jalaba, covering the face with the face veil when seen outside the family circle. And they attended school to learn French. The children attended school. Family indulged in the social customs of the Moroccan middle class. The men would stay out for days at a time, allowing their wives to invite each other to social gatherings within their homes while the men were gone. The women ate, drank, played drums, sang, danced, and gossiped. They often alluded to what their husbands could be doing without them for such an extended amount of time. These receptions served as the main social function for Abu Zaid's mother. Preparation for the ladies' receptions were extensive. The women, the wives of the officials, and prominent men in El Qasiba utilized the best rooms in the house, which the men typically reserved for themselves when they were present. Women arrived cloaked in their traditional jalabas and face veils, but revealed attire that spoke of indulgence, money, and personal preferences hidden from the wider eye of society. These elaborate receptions provided many freedoms and luxuries, but maintained the confines of the harem and a guest list approved by the men of the household. The women related stories and gossiped for hours, with the affairs of Abu Zaid's father a favorite topic. Grandmother would rush to the family's defense. Quote, "Men are like that. My daughter can't complain. She lacks nothing. We are often with her." Close quote. The women of Morocco relied on storytelling as a means of entertainment and support through challenging times. Grandmother would relate the same story hundreds of times at Layla's request. Women would gather around and interject comments that pertained based to the events of the day or whatever the trials they were going through.